Welcome to another video with me. Thanks for joining me today and always, and thanks for subscribing if you resonate with the content, if you vibe with the frequency. Lovely to have you on this journey with me and with the collective that we work with. So lovely to have you here. I'm going to piggyback once again. I've got a lot of piggyback videos happening right now. On the last one about our soul power, which also piggybacked on what was the other ones? The other part 1 and 2. I can't remember. Anyway, they're just a couple videos down from this last week. So I want to say before I start, there's a lot of energy pulsing right now, and I don't know if you're feeling it. I've talked to a couple other people who are feeling it, and it could feel like anxiety. It could feel like a little scattered. It could feel a little shaky inside. It could feel maybe even a little sped up from inside, a little overwhelm. Is this the full moon? I don't know. Are we getting any cosmic influxes? Perhaps. And I don't know that either because I haven't looked it up. But oftentimes, the more connected that we are to our own energetic feeling, right? When we have a sense of, oh, this is who I am from the inside out. It's a sensation. It's a quality of being. It is, it's the way that we feel in our body when we are at ease and at peace. That is part of our soul frequency, our divine blueprint frequency, our soul presence, which is our true essence. So I left off with the last video, and we're gonna just continue on this trajectory in this video. So I left off talking a little bit about there's a ceiling of our embodiment. Before we start really embodying our soul presence, there are stages and phases of being able to anchor in stabilized frequencies, higher vibrational frequencies, and more light. In the last video, one of the things that I was talking a little bit about, and I want to clarify this because I do believe, and I was talking about just hearing lately through conversations with people, this ceiling, right? This ceiling of what reality is. And kind of like not wanting to look beyond that reality, or not accepting it, or not even really knowing that it exists. So there's that tether to this is just what reality is, and these are the things that you have to do in order to survive and find happiness in this reality. And when I say this reality at this point, I'm talking about the 3D reality, the egoic construct that is connected to the material plane and that carries with it lifetimes of programming and conditioning of our thought forms, our behavior patterns, and our emotional dynamics with self and with other that served a purpose at one phase, 2 phases, 3 phases of our journey. And now we're moving into a very different phase. It is not unusual for people who are not on this journey, and I'm just going to assume, right, that you're on this journey. So you probably run into this with family members, with friends, with coworkers, that they're operating from a different level of understanding, of consciousness, of the ways in which they believe things are, because that is the old model that held weight and sway. Once we start going through our awakening process, we get a different viewpoint, right? So this is the mouse viewpoint that humanity has been within for thousands of years, with exception of those few, the yogis, the saints, the masters, right, who over these thousands of years had poked their head above the sea of Maya, so to speak, the illusion. And some people talk about it as they broke through the glass ceiling that kept our vision and kept our faculties only limited to this reality. And if we aren't on the awakening journey consciously, it is going to make sense that this is the only experience there is. I get a little riled up about this sometimes because I'm super passionate about awakening, and I'm super passionate about our personal responsibility in order to evolve, because it is for us, but it's also for a bigger collective. And part of my blueprint, which has not always been the favorite part of my blueprint, is definitely more of a rebel. Maybe I was a rebel without a cause at some point in time, but it's because I didn't understand the cause, but my soul and divine blueprint did understand why I went against norms, why I wouldn't conform. And this goes back to, as a child and especially as a teenager. I didn't know, because my divine blueprint was not in my understanding, right? I didn't understand how the soul, how these other realms operated. But that is still a part of my nature, in that I am not going to easily lay down and acquiesce. And I have a bit of an expectation on others sometimes, which is a shadow part of this quality of mine, to want to, push people, or get them to understand, or have judgment. And I know this about myself. And so part of my work is to be aware of my own shadow thought forms and imbalances that get in the way of my communication, my connection, my relationships, where I separate myself from a more open and compassionate way of operating. So I just wanted to clarify and to call myself out, right? Because this is all part of the journey. And we always get to fine tune and refine. And understanding how we're built and understanding our blueprint supports us in this deeper knowing, which is why I'm talking about this so much right now. So what I want to clarify with the last part of the video is that I truly believe everybody is going through some level of awakening, even if they are not consciously choosing it. And the world around us is the catalyst for that. For every system that starts to crumble, for every way that starts to upset our apple cart, that is a part of this process. And then it's up to us, each individually, to begin to question, what's going on in me? What is my response to this? What am I fearful of? What's really taking place? How can I open my mind? But if we don't understand that there's a larger event happening, it's going to be hard to do that. And yet, I believe that this whole process is going to have a ripple effect. And for me, what I have learned that I need to do is just hold that love and faith and trust and patience. But I also think it's important to be open about the fact that this is not the only reality. And you know, if you don't know, I have a book that I published that is called Awakening from the Dream, a Kundalini memoir. So that book, most of it is my journaling process. And that book covers the beginning of my awakening and my opening up to other dimensions, other levels of reality, and not understanding them at first, not recognizing exactly what they were or what their purpose was. But I learned, you know, over 20 years ago, papers moving around, that this is not the only reality. And the more that we can begin to open ourselves to recognize that and know that and to see that there is operation. We are operating on many different realities simultaneously. Quantum physics talks to us about this. But if we were to be aware of all of them all at once, can you imagine, like, whew, what a mind blower that would be? So that's not how the divine, right, has orchestrated this to work, because we're on an easier, softer way, which may, you know, not seem like it to some of us at different points in time. So I just wanted to, like, you know, piggyback the reality piece into this video, because our multi-dimensional self is also our soul expressions and aspects expanded through other dimensional realities. Now, some of you know this, some of you like take this in and are like, oh my gosh, yeah, like that's what that is, or yep, Been there. That's my ride. Others who haven't yet had that experience may be a little questioning, and that's okay. We want to question. We want to be curious. We want to not take everything at face value and allow our own direct experience to teach us and guide us. So this is part of what I want to talk about around our embodiment of our soul presence. Larger aspects, higher frequency, higher consciousness aspects of our soul presence, our highest selves, whose consciousness and energetics become part of our sacred technology and our larger energetic field. So just how does that land for you? Are you open to receive that and to perceive that? Or does that feel uncomfortable? Right? So just check in. Or is that a known to you? Do you know that? Even if you haven't had a direct experience, a part of you knows this truth. And it is the more soul presencing that we have connects us more profoundly and palpably to the divine. God, divine source, love, life with a capital L. You know what your relationship is. Now, as we begin to embody more of our holy wholeness, as I like to call it, we have less and less storylines of pain and suffering. We have more faith and trust in the divine, in life. We understand frequency better. We know frequency. We can tell more easily when we drop down into fear or when we're living from faith and love. And our intuition gets stronger. So that's one of the things that I want to talk about. Now, if we're immersed in the politics, in the fears, in, a lot of the things that are, they're disturbing on this plane. If we immerse our consciousness into that, we are consuming that vibration and that consciousness. And that dampens our ability to rise our vibe, so to speak. And it is in rising our frequency that we free ourselves from the darkness, but we also strengthen the light so that the darkness doesn't have as much power. And this is where we are each individually responsible, and that individual responsibility and actions create the power of the collectives of light, who are all doing their part in a myriad of different ways to support this grand shift of ascension that we are going through. But it can seem like it's still all out here if we don't really grok the importance of living from within and if you're over here in the 3D construct, it's kind of hard to believe that many of us are living really joyfully and freely, and that we're living without a lot of fear, and that we're consciously able to choose our experience, whether that be joy, whether that be gratitude, whether that be love, whether that be deeper healing and freeing ourselves easier from our own shadows, our own woundings, until we don't have any woundings anymore, right? We don't live from that experience anymore. And a lot of people, I think, who are really in the beginning of the shadow work, and I remember having this experience as well when I was deep in the shadow work and helping others with their shadow work, going back like 15 years, didn't understand ascension, didn't understand the raising of frequencies or any of that, any of this that we're in. I saw a lot of the love and light people, right, that I thought were a little new age and a little woo-woo. And I believed that they were bypassing. I believed that they were not doing their inner work, right? So as I said earlier, right, I had my judgments about that. I had kind of that, part of my blueprint. If I were to have an archetype that has been one of my most formidable guides, has been Kali Ma. And if you're familiar with the Hindu pantheon, Kali Ma is a wrathful goddess that her love comes through as really slaying the demons of ignorance, right? So she's a warrior goddess, and she's not usually very gentle or pretty, or she can be harsh and direct and but she's does it from this deep motherly love. She's like a tough love. And before I understood my blueprint, what my soul mission was, I was like, oh, why can't I be soft and gentle like, like Lakshmi or Saraswati? Why can't I? Right? Because I longed for that yin, which I gradually have grown into more of that over time. That's part of my evolution. And I've been able to integrate some of those archetypes and those parts of my own highest self that represent that. But I still have that edge that is part of what comes through me, right? It's part of my mission. It's part of how I'm here to support others. But at that time, right, that shadow aspect had a lot of judgment. I felt like nobody can be all love and light. Nobody can be that happy. They're suppressing. They're in denial. They're not doing their work. And then as I began to evolve and heal deeper and deeper and anchor in more of my own light and soul presence and my connection to the divine grew deeper, I didn't have all that anymore. And I realized, oh, those people were already ahead of the curve. They'd already done this. They had already raised and alchemized their own darkness. Not to say that any of them are perfect, right? But they had already, on a larger scope, done the work that I was in the midst of doing. They were just ahead of me. So I think it's easy for people who are still really in that place to think that this is possible, that I can choose how much suffering I'm going to be in. And sometimes I can't, right? Because sometimes that deeper work bubbles up and I gotta deal with it. I gotta go into it. I gotta heal it. I've gotta look at it. But knowing that that is not the reality, because now I have enough experience of what this inner reality is, that is peace most of the time, and that is joy, and that's enthusiasm. And I've learned how to stabilize my frequencies. So anyway, so I understand that it is hard sometimes to recognize that you can be living in a very different reality even while the cauldron of the chaos is spinning around you. But it takes the work, and it takes sometimes the techniques, it takes the practices, it takes support if you don't know how to do it on your own. That's what my light language activations do, right? That jumps your frequency so that you don't have to pull yourself up out of the mud, right? So there are many practitioners that are here to help everyone, just like there are practitioners that help me. There are teachers that I follow. I have very specific teachers, right, that resonate with my blueprint, that support my process, support my awareness. So we're all in this journey together. And the more that we do this, the more that we know our own truth, and we know the higher truths and the higher realities, even if we aren't living in them all the time. The more that we pull and open and raise our frequency to receive our soul presence is those truths, is those knowings. And this becomes our inner guidance system. So for a long time, we've utilized guides, right, outside of us. We still do. I still have my guides, my team, right, that I work with. But more and more, they even are guiding me as more of I become more soul embodied. Their guidance is getting more and more subtle, and they're much more selective in their guidance. And over this last 6 months, they have been very specific that my job is to sensitize even more to the subtleties within my own soul knowing. All of the wisdom that I need is in here, or is coming in here. So there's this shift that is taking place where I have to get on this learning curve. And I'm sharing this because we all have different learning curves. You may be in a learning curve where you're just opening up to your guides. And you're learning how to attune to that. And you're learning how to discern. That's super important. What frequencies are in your field, right? What are your guides sharing with you? Are they of a frequency that is of the highest light and love? Your frequency is going to be the gauge of what you're receiving. And ideally, all of those guides of the highest light and love is how I usually term this. I specify always of the highest light and love. Because in the multidimensionality, there's all sorts of frequencies and vibrations and realms, right? So our job is to continue attuning into these higher frequencies of the divine, whatever that divine is for you, how do you hear? How does your blueprint, your soul, how are you geared to hear? Not what you want to hear, right? Like, I don't get a lot of visuals like some people do. That's not where I'm at. Maybe someday I will. So I have to embrace and strengthen the skills that I do have, right? And connect to that, because that's what my blueprint is showing me right now. Just like I wanted to be all Lakshmi and warm and fuzzy. It wasn't in my blueprint. So I was dividing from myself, and I wasn't, when Kali was my teacher, for my own inner purification and as a way to support others, I had to embrace that, okay, this is just a part of who I am. I'm a shadow worker. I'm going to push people's edges. I'm going to maybe make them feel uncomfortable sometimes because I'm going to shed different perspectives that might, not feel good all the time. But it's to get them to move and to shift into a higher way of seeing, right? I have to let them take responsibility for their journey as well, right? We're all sovereign. So I had to embrace her teachings for me to come into a deeper level of wholeness and clarity, and for that to evolve into the next phase and stage. Had I clung on to what I wanted, I would have been defeating my own soul's intentions and my own higher self's intentions of trying to get me on track and in alignment, right? So do you see? Are you visual? Do you hear? Do you have knowings, right? Are you super sensitive energetically? What parts, are you drawn to nature? Does nature speak to you? Are you drawn to the stars? Like all of these things that you are naturally inclined towards are going to be what guides you and what brings parts of you home into your holy wholeness. And that is part of our guidance system. The more that we come into our wholeness, the less that we are relying on external forces. Now, we might be in relationship with them, but it becomes more of this symbiotic relationship where it just seems like, oh, I guess, I didn't know I knew that, right? Because it just came through me, or it was me. My higher expression is giving me the knowings. We're operating as one in a unified presence. Let me look at my notes. So here are just some bullet points. And I want to say, once I get moved, we're going to be doing more direct processes. And that's not going to be right here on Facebook, on YouTube. That is going to be most likely in Patreon. And I want to support whoever is interested in joining in those processes once I get my Patreon set up, to join me over there. Because we're coming at this time where these things are just becoming more and more important. and 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 we get to choose, right? You get to choose the path that you want to move, and how quickly you want to move and shift. So so here are just some of the bullet points to begin thinking about now. Are you choosing your new realities? Are you making conscious choices on your day to day, what you're thinking about, what you're feeling? Because that creates your reality. Your inner reality starts to create your outer reality. Are you choosing the mechanical world consciousness, or are you choosing a new earth, heaven on earth, eagle view, whatever you want to call it, um, higher divine consciousness? What is your relationship with surrendering? Do you know how to really let go and surrender into whatever level of frequency that you're holding? Do you know how to surrender into faith and trust? Into the growing, the potentiality of you? When do you feel most expanded? Meaning, when do you feel most free, most at peace, most aligned, most in the flow with life, capital L, life? And are you choosing more of that? Do you know how to choose to live from joy and peace and love? Do you know how to attune yourself, to fine-tune yourself to those higher frequencies? Do you understand your timelines and how to shift your timelines and to do it consciously? And lastly, coherence. Do you have a sense of what coherence is? Do you have an embodied experience of that internal, coherence? Let's just say deep steadiness, equanimity, balance, harmony. We're not engaging in division. We're in states of unification where everything is in perfection. And we're balancing and refining that with the support of all that is around us to help us do that. And what is the energy, the consciousness that you are consuming? If it is drama and trauma, then that is what you're going to be embodying. If it is hope and faith and trust and love and peace and exploring all of the new systems that are coming in, the new kinds of communities, the new, inventions that are bringing forth amazing healing and expansion of consciousness, and right, then that is what you're going to be imbibing. That is going to be what you're embodying. That is going to be your reality. If you are interested in one-on-one support, please contact me through my website. The address is below. I'm here to support wherever you're at in your trajectory, right? I mean, I have a wide range that I can work with, but everything is going to be geared towards expediting and raising your frequency so that you can come into, yes, I'm doing all of these with ease and grace. And then also, if you're going to be interested in the Patreon, then yeah, shoot me an email as well on my website and just let me know a little bit about yourself, so that we can start connecting a little bit deeper. And then I have an idea of where people are at for what the process is we're going to be stepping into that and doing. All right, that's it. So many blessings. Many, many new beginnings are taking place right now. So I hope you're finding that true as well. Much love.